Nikola Tesla never claimed to be a magician, yet history has replaced his rigorous blueprints with crystal balls. We remember him as the wizard of electricity, the isolated genius who dreamed up free energy, only to be crushed by greedy industrialists. We will examine the physical ruins of Wardenclyffe to see why the laws of physics ultimately destroyed his global wireless dream. What is undisputed is the physical evidence he left behind. The 1888 patent designs didn't just win him the immediate commercial battle. They established the foundational architecture of the global power grid through the precise principles of resonant inductive coupling. With the polyphase motor solving the immediate crisis of industrial power, Tesla's ambition wildly expanded. But to turn the entire Earth into a massive circuit, he first had to win the most brutal corporate infrastructure war in American history. To understand the true stakes of the War of Currents, we have to stop treating it as a comic book rivalry. It was not a battle over who was the better inventor, but a desperate financial crisis over the price of raw copper. 2 years later, he cemented his victory at the first major cathedral of the modern electric age. The 1895 Niagara Falls hydroelectric generators proved that AC could harvest massive natural power and transmit it over 20 miles to factories in Buffalo. Today, in 2026, that fundamental architecture still powers the global grid. Ironically, we are now seeing massive high-voltage direct current lines being built to transport offshore wind energy, echoing the scene transmission debates Tesla and Edison fought over a century ago. But in the late 1890s, the decisive victory at Niagara Falls had made Nikola Tesla the most famous and credible engineer on Earth. It gave him the immense cultural capital he needed to chase a much stranger dream. In 1898, crowds at Madison Square Garden were convinced they were witnessing a supernatural event. Nikola Tesla stood before a large tank of water, directing a 6-foot iron boat to turn, stop, and reverse, apparently at his command. Skeptics in the audience searched for hidden wires or suggested the boat was controlled by a trained monkey. Tesla let the rumors of magic circulate, but the reality was documented in his notebooks as the first practical application of radio frequency logic. The core of this technology lay in United States Patent 645-576. Filed in 1897, it described a system of 4 tuned circuits, 2 at the transmitter and 2 at the receiver, all oscillating in perfect mathematical synchrony. This wasn't just about sending a signal, it was about frequency selectivity. While his rival, Guglielmo Marconi, was still experimenting with crude, untuned spark gap transmitters that jammed every receiver in range, Tesla had already designed the fundamental architecture for modern tuning. Tesla's mechanism relied on inductive resonant coupling. By matching the electrical resonance of both ends of the system, he could transfer information with surgical precision. It was a mathematical discovery that transformed the chaotic electromagnetic spectrum into a usable grid. However, the world gave the credit to Marconi. When the Italian inventor sent the first transatlantic radio signal in 1901, he did so using a system that Tesla claimed utilized at least 17 of his own protected patents. The bitterness intensified in 1909 when Marconi was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. Tesla, who viewed radio merely as a side project for his much larger goal of global power transmission, became increasingly isolated from the conservative scientific establishment. History would only correct itself decades after his death. In June 1943, the United States Supreme Court ruled that Tesla's patents had priority, acknowledging that Marconi's earlier work lacked the essential tuning circuits described in Patent 645-576. But there was a cynical layer to this justice. Legal historians point out that the U.S. government supported Tesla's claim primarily to avoid paying massive royalties to the Marconi Company for radio equipment used during World War II. In 2026, the Belgrade Museum's digitization project has finally cataloged 16,000 archival items related to these early radio frequency experiments. These include detailed studies of hydrogen lamps that Tesla used to visualize high-frequency waves in his lab. This data is now being utilized by researchers in Finland who are testing the next generation of airborne power. In early 2026, university trials demonstrated how ultrasonic pulses could guide electrical sparks along precise atmospheric channels. While the internet often hypes these trials as the return of Tesla's free energy, the engineering reality is more grounded. The Finnish experiments are limited to industrial robots and remote sensors, verifying the mathematics of resonance over meters, not continents. The radio victory was posthumous. At the time, Tesla was staking everything on one location, Niagara. He believed that the success of the AC grid was only the first chapter in a global wireless nervous system. Niagara would be the moment the wizard proved he could power the world. But to turn that industrial triumph into a global vision, he would have to confront the brutal physics of the inverse square law. In 1895, Niagara Falls was finally harnessed by the most sophisticated mathematical mind of the age. The Adams power plant wasn't just a factory, it was the first continental-scale proof that the alternating current grid was the inevitable future of human civilization. This was the point of no return. Proponents of direct current had spent years arguing that AC was a deadly, unmanageable force, but the economic reality of the Niagara project made their protests mathematically irrelevant as soon as the first industrial switch was thrown. The Niagara Falls Commission, chaired by Lord Kelvin, faced immense pressure to choose a system that wouldn't fail on a global stage. Initially a supporter of DC, Kelvin famously reversed his position after reviewing the superior efficiency of Tesla's polyphase designs and Westinghouse's proposals. Engineering records from 1893 reveal a surgical plan. Tesla's architecture used a two-phase generation system at 2200 volts, designed for maximum stability. It was a mathematical victory that could simultaneously drive heavy streetcars and light a kitchen bulb 20 miles away. The real breakthrough was the transmission. By stepping voltage up to unheard-of levels, the system could shoot power across the distance to Buffalo. In November 1896, the first surge arrived, marking the definitive victory of AC over the localized and inefficient DC model. Success was built on 13 of Tesla's core patents, but required the massive manufacturing power of George Westinghouse. While Tesla provided the geometric blueprint, Westinghouse's in-house engineers performed the brutal work of bridging the gap between theoretical notebooks and massive rotating steel machinery. Niagara proved that a single polyphase system could serve a diverse regional network. It was the birth of the universal system, establishing the functional standards that remain the global backbone of the grid in 2026, from massive turbine halls to the sockets in your wall. A common misconception persists that Tesla project managed the entire construction. In reality, he was the system's architect, the man who visualized the invisible magnetic flow, not the civil engineer responsible for the massive stone tunnels and the day-to-day operations of the Cataract Construction Company. Success made Tesla a global celebrity and, dangerously, made him feel invincible. He had proven that he could send power through wires across an entire region. His next goal was far more radical. He wanted to throw the wires away and conduct energy through the earth. In 2026, the legacy of this masterpiece is undergoing a physical revival. On the US side, the surviving limestone transformer house is being stabilized and restored as a National Historic Landmark and a museum, preserving the first large-scale application of Tesla's AC vision. Heritage projects are utilizing original Tesla-era floor plans to guide these sensitive upgrades. These documents provide a template for integrating 19th century mechanical spaces with 21st century visitor experiences, preserving the architectural soul of the world's first AC cathedral during the current restoration phase. Across the border, the Niagara Parks Power Station has already been fully restored. Visitors today can descend through the original tail race tunnels in a glass elevator, witnessing the scale of the 11 massive generators that first validated the polyphase theory at an industrial scale. This era was the absolute high point of Tesla's career. He had defeated the most powerful financial interests in American industry using nothing but geometry and faith in his rotating magnetic fields. He truly believed he had mastered the secret rhythmic heart of the Earth's energy. But this industrial triumph gave him the immense cultural capital he needed to chase a much stranger and ultimately impossible dream. That ambition would lead him to a lonely tower in Long Island called Wardenclyffe, where the laws of physics would prove far less cooperative. By 1903, the silhouette of the 187-foot Wardenclyffe Tower loomed over Long Island as a skeletal monument to overreach. While the public saw a mystery, J.P. Morgan's accountants saw a bottomless pit for capital. The true breakdown of this relationship was recently clarified by a collection of 1904 letters auctioned in 2025. These documents reveal a desperate, cornered engineer begging for a final infusion of cash that Morgan had no intention of providing. The common conspiracy theory suggests Morgan sabotaged Tesla because wireless power couldn't be metered. However, the private correspondence shows a more pragmatic financial withdrawal. Once Marconi proved he could send a signal with a much cheaper setup, Morgan viewed Tesla's tower as a redundant machine. But the deeper failure wasn't financial, it was physical. Tesla's world wireless system was designed to pump the Earth's electrical charge into a state of resonance, treating the entire planet as a single, vibrating conductor. He believed he could bypass the inverse square law, the fundamental rule that energy dissipates rapidly over distance. Tesla argued that by using terrestrial standing waves, he could deliver industrial-scale power anywhere on the globe without the use of wires. Modern physics confirms his specific ambition was mathematically impractical. While the Earth does have a resonant frequency, the energy required to maintain that resonance for power delivery is orders of magnitude greater than what Tesla's generators could ever produce. As the funding evaporated, the wizard mask began to slip. Tesla retreated into a cycle of obsessive correspondence, writing letters to Morgan that bordered on the irrational, while the Shoreham laboratory stood as an empty, silent shell. We have no verified records that the tower was ever tested at full power. His laboratory notebooks from the 1903 tests remain intentionally vague, leaving a vacuum that the free energy myth has filled for over a century. In 1917, the tower was finally dynamited for scrap metal to pay off his debts. The demolition marked the end of Tesla as a civil engineer and the beginning of his transition into a figure of tragic legend. The site's current 2026 fire recovery efforts emphasize the importance of preserving this history of failure. Stabilizing the remains of the original Stanford White Laboratory allows us to study the physical scale of an ambition that truly tried to bend the laws of nature. Wardenclyffe was a ruin by 1917, but Tesla's ideas didn't die with the tower. Even as he slid into obscurity in the New Yorker hotel, he continued to claim he had mastered the ultimate signal. The tower's foundation remains a site of global pilgrimage today, proving the power of his visionary ambition even if the physical evidence failed. It stands as a reminder that genius often hits a wall where imagination meets mathematics. In 2026, we are finally seeing that signal return in a more grounded scientific form. But before we look at the future, we must examine the files that the FBI seized from his hotel room. In our final chapter, we look inside the declassified 1943 FBI files to find the truth about his particle beam weapon and the real realization of his wireless vision through space-based energy. The declassified 1943 FBI files reveal a truth far more sobering than the death ray legends suggested. When MIT professor John G. Trump reviewed Tesla's seized papers, he found no secret weapons, only the technical ruminations of an aging engineer who had reached the limits of his era's math. For decades, this absence of a superweapon fueled the myth of the suppressed genius. But in April 2026, a different picture is emerging. We no longer need to speculate about what was in those trunks because the documents themselves have finally been brought into the light of the digital age. Over 16,000 digitized documents from the Belgrade Museum and the Tesla Science Center are now accessible to researchers worldwide. This massive portal is stripping away the wizard mask, replacing the occult showman with a rigorous systems engineer whose real legacy was hidden in plain sight. Resonant coupling. Tesla was fundamentally wrong about global free power. The inverse square law remains an undefeated opponent of long-range energy transmission. However, he was exactly right about resonant electromagnetic coupling as the future of local, cable-free energy exchange, the very technology now sitting inside your phone charger. By 2026, the crude inductive pads of the past have evolved. Modern wireless charging for electric vehicles and industrial robots uses the exact principle Tesla demonstrated with his early coils, matching the frequency of the source and receiver to transfer power with precision across an air gap. This isn't magic, it is high-frequency engineering. While the internet legend demands a world where power is broadcast through the ionosphere like radio waves, the engineering reality is more focused. We have moved from broadcast power to guided power, using acoustic guides and magnetic resonance. The latest proof of this evolution comes from the 2026 Finland high-power resonance tests. Researchers at the University of Helsinki have successfully powered industrial drones in flight using an invisible wire of ultrasonic density, a modern interpretation of Tesla's dream of airborne electricity without physical tethers. In these trials, efficiency remains the hard boundary. While lab tests achieve over 80% efficiency at short ranges, the technology falters over distance. It is a reminder that Tesla's struggle wasn't with a conspiracy of silence, but with the fundamental dissipation of energy through a medium. The Tesla revival we see today is often a cocktail of pop culture marketing and legitimate scientific awe. We love the image of the solitary wizard in the New Yorker hotel, penniless but holding the keys to the universe. Yet this narrative often ignores the boring, reliable beauty of the grid he actually built. The alternating current infrastructure is the most complex machine ever constructed by humans. Every time you flip a switch, you are utilizing Tesla's universal polyphase thinking. As we shift toward a renewable, decentralized grid in 2026, his original 1888 logic is becoming more relevant than ever. At the historic site of Wardenclyffe, the transformation is complete. The summer 2026 Visitor Center opening marks the fulfillment of a century-old promise. Here, the modern glass and steel structure integrated into the brick lab stands as a monument not to magic, but to the iterative process of science. Humanity's obsession with the wizard myth often distracts from the tangible gifts Tesla left behind. We no longer need a sorcerer to explain the world when we have the documents to understand it. The real Nikola Tesla was a man who saw the geometry of power and dared to build a machine to match it. As the microscope is turned off, the evidence remains. Tesla's ghost no longer haunts the grid, he is the grid. From the induction motors in our factories to the resonant pads in our driveways, the resonance he discovered continues to vibrate through the infrastructure of the 21st century. We leave the legend to the dreamers and the math to the engineers. If you wish to find Tesla's true masterpiece, do not look for a lost death ray. Look at the lights above you, the phone in your hand, and the invisible threads of energy that keep our civilization moving forward.